Topic for today: identity theft. It's like identity theft and manipulating naturality, like, being natural and being human and trying to discover naturality and get out of a cycle, get out of a breaking pattern type of thing, to acknowledge the patterns and break them and not allow them to affect your life and stuff like that. So when renewing and what they would call rebirthing and self-care and improvement, there's all sorts of names to it, but it's basically rediscovering a different way of living. And so, it's like we all live a certain way, different situations, but there's always that point in life where it's like midlife crisis, where we acknowledge that we need a change and we need to do something about it. Like certain things in our life, like behavior, ain't really suiting us well, right? And so being in a relationship, it's more difficult than being single and stuff like that, because what happens is we end up kind of affecting each other in a relationship. It depends how much clarity you're kind of having, like what you're removing out of your life. And the more clarity you have, the more more able to read people or use your intuition and stuff like that more easily. So when you're kind of doing this in life, it's interesting because I've experienced this in both ways. And so the natural way, because there are laws, universal laws and guidelines that we need to make ourselves follow. Like they're there for us. They're there to discover. It's our responsibility to be able to discover them the proper way, because it's like a cause and effect pattern, to where when we realize certain causes in our life and the effects that they're having on our life, it's like basically telling us that we need to do something. So when we discover these laws and we discover these effects, we start going into a natural mode of knowing that we need help, or knowing that we need to change, or being able to have to do something about it. And so we end up teaching ourselves differently, and we become more aware and more conscious, right? And so when we become more conscious, we're aware of a lot more in life and in our daily activities than normal. And in our relationships, we're even 10 times more aware. We start noticing the little things, like how a person crosses their legs and why, or how a person batters their eyelashes and why. It starts with expressions and mannerisms, and then from there it goes on. It's a very long process. And so my discovery and my experience is that what happens is the spouse, and typically it's going to be, it can go 50-50. It just depends on the situation. but there's gonna be a mirror, like there's gonna be a reflection of each other, and you don't want to acknowledge it like a mimic, because it kind of is, but you don't want to be able to, you don't want to allow yourself to acknowledge it like that, because it has an effect to where it's hidden and you don't know, right? And so, but this is a normal thing. It just depends on the person's demeanor and their lifestyle and stuff like that. So, and it's not 100% mimic. It's like off a little bit, and there are gaps that it's almost like it's unknown, unseen, untold, undiscovered, all that stuff. And you know, naturality is supposed to be like that until it's acknowledged, right? And so when a person understands but can't comprehend exactly, it's like a couple will go into a level of kind of teaching each other, like they discover new things. Communication is a main factor to things, and so when this happens, like communication back and forth is very important, because y'all are going to end up being able to teach each other. And when this happens, like y'all can like basically communicate with those oh my factors, like just typical conversation, and it's like, hey, what'd you eat today, or what'd you do today? And then the other spouse, you know, the spouse, or whatever spousal arrangement there is, it's like they're gonna be like, oh, you know, I was thinking of that place, as you're telling them like what you ate. And so also they're gonna make little comments like that are gonna kind of match a little bit of your conversation. And it's those moments where you're like, oh wow, I was kind of thinking the same thing but a little different, right? And so we all have those moments, and those are natural, like those are natural moments, right? And so what some people need to look out for is when a person is fully mimicking to where they're kind of tricking themselves a little bit. And what that is like they're totally comprehending what you're thinking but not what you're speaking, right? And so when they're too much into understanding these things and they're trying to figure out a lot, they can basically become too intuitive to where they're reading themselves too much, but they don't understand that they're reading other people or their spouse, and they can become a little bit unaware of that. And so it's very important to become aware of that, because you'll start tricking yourself to where when you're comprehending a read, it's like you want to be able to comprehend it but acknowledge it to a certain factor of not allowing it to affect you, right? And so the main reason for this is because when they get triggered or they're communicating with you, when they do communicate with you, they will communicate your own thought or your own knowing, right? And so it's very important to, like, when you're communicating, to listen properly and comprehend the proper way, to where you're not completely like reading the individual, but you're you're giving them attention with communication skills, and you're not so much into the reading aspect of it. And so it's important because you don't want to allow yourself to be tricked. Like, you don't want to accidentally trick yourself. Tricking yourself is very easy, and you'll almost feel like hypnotized, and you don't want to be able to allow yourself to be hypnotized. And so it can also have, that being the cause, it can have an effect to where when you do conversate in the future, it's like, well, I was telling you that, but now you're kind of saying what I already told you. Like, it's going to be like, whoa, are you acting like that or what? Because it's like, you'll find yourself telling your spouse, like, I talked to you about that 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it didn't seem like it mattered. But talking to you now, it's like you're using the same line on me, right? So it's like very important to not trick yourself. And so that's just in a spousal, type of way. When you're interacting with friends and work and coworkers and stuff like that, it's like that same thing applies. Like, you don't want to completely allow yourself to be taken by somebody, because you'll end up becoming controlled and stuff like that. And so what happens is, like, it's like you need to wake yourself up. Like, be aware, be awake, allow yourself to acknowledge these things. Don't become a victim. Try not to let things get out of hand, because when they do, it's like you can go into this whole trance type of thing, and you don't want to. Like, you want to stay awake, because it's very crucial. Now, this is where people can take advantage of you and stuff like that. And there's a good way, like if you have support, or if you're married, or you have a spouse that you're taking care of, and y'all are moving forward in a relationship and have goals. Like, it's not that it's okay, but it's to be aware, because sometimes a person can completely be somewhat attached to you and they don't know it. And so when they're fully mimicking you, and they're not acknowledging the reflections, it's like they're tricking themselves to where it's like, yeah, they know what they like to drink, they know what they like to eat, they know what they know what they like to drive, they know what music they like, and so forth. But from there, it's like other things are a little different. Like, when it comes to certain factors of surviving and getting by in life, it's like they'll mimic you to where at the moment, it's like it's gonna feel like they're the same way. Like, it's like that conversation, like you're having that conversation, and the other person's like, oh, well, me too, and they're just kind of going with it. And then there's also that me too, to where it's like they can kind of understand a situation and find a certain time in their life to where they're like, oh, I kind of been through that too, but in a different way. It'd be like a little different situation. So, and that's just like communicating back and forth, to where two people are excited to talk to each other and communicate with each other, and they're just trying to basically interact and share each other's stories and stuff like that in life and experiences. But the other way, it's like there's that me too also, that's like gonna be trickery. Like, it's gonna accidentally trick your mind and stuff, to where when the spouse ain't with you, they'll completely, it's like setting aside it's like setting aside something, and then they interact with other people, and it's like they're all of a sudden an open book to other people. And unfortunately, it's like they're kind of developing a whole nother scenario for another person, right? So with this being understood, it's like basically a cup of water, with a little bit of flavor in there, and then they set it aside, they leave it at home, then they go out to work or with their friends or whatever, and then they're filling up another cup of water, but they're completely filling them up in a reading type matter to where they may be tricking their mind a little bit, right? And the triggers will affect them almost like 98% to 100%, to where they're allowing themselves to basically surrender to a stranger, pretty much. And so they'll be comprehending and reading other people's emotions, wants, needs, desires, but they won't know they're reading them. They're actually comprehending them, and they can be self-mistaken as a warning, like that this really happens. Like it's 100% type thing. And then if something does attract a person or whatnot, it's like they'll go into that, you'll allow a stranger to pick you up right off the street type thing. Like you can meet a stranger in like 10 minutes and you'll think that the feelings or emotions are coming from you. So, it's very important to realize these things. Now, in other situations, it's like, well, you have that to where you can accidentally mistake somebody's reading for your own wants or needs, and you'll be wondering why, like, why was I acting like this more than usual? And those are your warning signs. Like, it's like, well, hold up, I'm usually not this hyper, I'm usually not this hungry, or I'm usually not this down, or whatever it is, but you'll feel something off with your balance a little bit, right? And so those are those alerts and those awareness moments that you have to allow yourself to properly understand these things. Now, those are natural things, like they're very, 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 very natural. And when it's unnatural, you'll know, because you'll start feeling some type of manifestation or manifesting, right? And so what I mean by that is, when you don't know if you're reading somebody or if they're reading you, it's like you'll start feeling this awkward magnetic type energy that's producing. And when this happens, it's like the same thing I just explained can happen, but in a psychic type of way. And it's like very unnatural. And what happens is you start creating these sheets of what they would call downloads, right? And these downloads, they come with people that are transferring them from thought to thought or whatever it is. And so you'll start feeling this magnetic energy, and you can feel it in your body, and then you can feel it push out your body. You can feel it around you, almost what they would call like aura, or you'll feel it inside, and it's like, it's not normal, it's not natural, right? And it's even 10 times more dangerous because you're tricking yourself with energy, like, or somebody's tricking you. Like, if you're not knowing it, then somebody's literally tricking themselves based off of their need or desire. So if they're using you, then basically it's like they're not knowing or they're knowing, either or, but they're still tricking themselves. And then it's almost like a drug. Like once they get that feeling, like once they get that feltness of like, oh damn, I felt great for that month using this person, then they're going to come back for some more because it kind of wore off, right? Or they manipulated it somehow. So they'll go back to thinking about the person to try to get more whatever, and in a psychic type of way, in exchange of thought. This goes back to like Greek. It goes back to like the Roman days before that. It's like very mythical but very real. In the ancient days, they used to, I guess, pretty much test this theory because, you know, there wasn't much evolved and there was more acknowledgement because there was lower population. So it's like an exchange of thought with energy. And this is very dangerous because it's like a weave of energy but with intel. And the intel can be very controlling. It just depends on the energy. It's emotional energy, basically, to where they're literally comprehending this energy in the same way I just explained to y'all earlier, but then they're transferring it to another person. And it works in a three-party or if not more situation, and it's the most deadliest thing to have around. Like it's uncalled for behavior. It's very unnatural. And so the thought, the emotion, the what's felt, you know, the feeling part, like it's gonna be very awkward. And so your mind will go into a shift, and what it is somebody shifting energy through you, and it's almost deadly depending on what you're comprehending. Like all of a sudden one day you can be your natural self, you're working out, you're sticking to your goals, you're eating on a diet and so forth, and then a month later it's like all random, like you want to become a something that's awkward, you know, that you would never probably do, you know, like, oh wow, you know, you have this awesome job or you're making so much a year and you're happy with your life, and then something tells you like, hey, wait, I want to be a race car driver. And it's like, whoa, you'll feel that mode, you'll feel that energy, you'll feel that hype for a little bit, but then all of a sudden it goes away or whatnot, right? And so this is an awkward way to like trick yourself or trick others with energy. And the energy is easy to feel. Like, you can feel it around you, and it can also be manipulated. And people will use it for the wrong reasons. It's not the greatest thing. What happens is it has a cause and effect. There's only one or the other. There's only this and that. There's only good or bad, right? There's only two ways to live, good and bad. There's two type of behaviors. And so when you're getting into a third-party situation, it's like, wait a minute, who's getting the in-between of the good or bad, right? It's going to be the one that's using the couple, or the one that's using two people, basically. And then they're going to complain, they're going to blame the people they're using and so forth, and they're going to try to hop around and shift around and think about this person, think about that person, blame this person, try to give back. It's a give and take situation, and it's like the two people or the spouse will like be like, well, what am I doing? I ain't doing nothing. I'm living normally, you know, like it's very not so noticeable until it starts to affect you majorly. And so when this happens, it's like you need to be very aware, because it can veer you off your path of wanting to properly live proper, you know, like your triggers can be 100% effective to where it's almost like somebody's basically controlling you, like with the remote basically, and they can almost make you walk into traffic and not be aware of it. And that's how deadly this is. And so when it's used as a weapon, like, this is worse than an atomic bomb. Like this is something that the government should start buckling down on, because awareness and consciousness nowadays, it's like it's becoming very interesting, because it's unseen, it's untold, it's unheard. You can't explain it. You explain it and you try to communicate with somebody about it, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, it sounds so unreal, like they're gonna look at you like you're crazy, but it's very surreal, you know, to certain levels of understanding it. And this is where, like, you get your, if you ever understood zombie movies and stuff, it's like, yeah, they're 100% like fake, and they have costumes and whatever. But in a different way of understanding it, it's like somebody's basically turning you into a zombie, and you're living in a matrix world to where you're basically not even comprehending what you're reading. You're just kind of in your survival mode of living, and basically doing what others tell you. Like, you're taking advice from others, and you're not allowing yourself to fully do things properly. And then depending on the person, they can like keep you away from what you want in life. They could be jealous tendencies, vindictive tendencies. They can be harmful tendencies. They can be using tendencies, like using you for what you know, using you for your emotions, using you for your spotlight, using you for your laugh, using you for your uplift attitude, using you for all sorts of things. It just depends what they want to take from you. And so it's like basically taking your spunk away, basically, or your courage or your devotion or whatever it is. Like, it's these type of things that happens when you just all of a sudden call it quits in a life that you basically maybe had a commitment to, or wanted a commitment to, or whatever, and then you didn't, you or the other spouse didn't want to work it out, or y'all didn't communicate much, or whatever the situation is. But one or the other is going to fall off their goals or path or whatever. And what it is that the couple gets manipulated so much to where it's like the person using the couple is becoming so selfish to where they want that divulgement of information, right? And so getting this divulgement of information, it comes at a cost, like it just depends. And then the blame, the cause and effect blame, is like they want to take from a couple, but they don't want to understand, like, hey, wait a minute, you just put a manifestation in me, and they're not understanding that they were getting manifested using the qualities that they liked of you. And so if they see a couple that's all alive, happy, and doing well, when somebody uses that couple, they're going to have that complaint, like, wait a minute, I just received this, and this, and became aware of it, and they're going to try to give back or have a blame towards the couple. And that person that used them for their spunk, or used them for their happiness, or used them for their knowledge, or used them for their whatever it was, they're not gonna acknowledge, wait a minute, I got this and this and this from using you. But they're not gonna acknowledge, like, oh, well, it came with receiving your thoughts or your behavior or your attitude or whatever. And then they're not even gonna understand the cause and effect. They're not gonna understand, like, the effect that they had on you by using you. So it works both ways. And when a couple or a person ain't they're not aware of this, or they're not properly acknowledging that people are using them, and they're those type of people that don't hold grudges, they help people or whatever it is, like, they're not going to have much to hide, right? And so they're basically going to be like, well, they think they're helping society, but with that not knowing of understanding, it's like other people are going to try to give back what they didn't like receiving from that couple with ordinary days, natural days of maybe, having that stretch in the morning, or that workout, or that bad day or good day, or, that flu or that cough or that whatever. And these transfers of energy, they come with all that. Like, it's worse than a cold. Like, you're talking about an instant cold you can give somebody with energy. And you can go to a doctor and take a test, and there'll be no active positive cold in the blood cells or in the body or in whatever it is. And so these energy scripts or these energy sheets, it's like people got to be aware of them, because it's manipulating the mind, it's manipulating families, it's manipulating children, it's manipulating society, it's manipulating families, it's taking families and taking them apart. They're arguing, they're fighting, they're splitting up, they're blaming each other, they're whatever. And then you can be arguing with your spouse, and if these people that are using a spouse, like, are aware of this, they literally could be laughing at you or giving you the wrong advice, because they're not knowing both sides. And so back to what I was talking about, where a person could be mimicking their spouse, when this happens, it's like the person using them is gonna basically comprehend a half of a mimic of a full mimic. So, and then depending on whoever's in their life, it's like they're going to receive information from their spouse, they're going to receive information from their children, they're going to receive information from their work schedule, they're going to receive information from their family. You pick up the phone and you ask your brother, sister, your father, your mother, whatever, and you have those normal conversations that a normal person has. It's like all of a sudden they're going to be picking up thoughts of your own and of whoever you were communicating with. So this is where the person that's using somebody for help or assistance or psychically whatever, or psychic healing or whatever it is, it's like they're going to have so much to complain about, to where they're going to try to give back all this stuff in the improper way, but they're not going to be aware of what they were trying to take in the first place, which was wrongful and it was hidden, or what they were taking advantage of. So always be cautious and always be aware if anybody's attached to you, if anybody's manipulating you, if anybody's psychically taking from you, basically. And it's a little difficult to feel that connection, because some energies are different, to where you just have to take that moment of time to realize, like, if there is any energy flowing through you, or if there is any type of manifestation that you're manifesting that's not your family, or that's not your spouse, or whatever, because this can become very dangerous to where all of a sudden it's like, you're walking out the door and you got a bunch of stuff in your hand, and all of a sudden you open the door up and you're like, whoa, I'm in my car now, and I don't even remember gathering my stuff and leaving my house or whatever. And then you'll be like, whoa, I don't even remember locking the door. I don't remember opening up the car door or any of that stuff. And it's not that you're not remembering, it's that you're basically hypnotized. Like you're basically having your good energy, or you're feeling good about yourself, like sucked out of you, to where it's like somebody's basically plugging something in you and using you for energy, to where you can feel drowsy and down and hypnotized, and the other person will feel alive. The other person will feel good, or whatever it is. And so you need to watch out for these things, because these can become very threatened. They become a threat in your life. They become majorly effective to where you lie to yourself, basically, or you're acting like somebody else, and it's like, whoa, there's a difference between an act, and there's a difference between somebody that's making you be something that you're not. Okay? Like, it's a major difference to be something that you're not, and being 100% influenced by other people. And you'll be able to notice this when you have that independency time, or you'll have that isolated time. And you'll notice the difference in your children. You'll notice the difference in your friends and family, or who you hang around. Like, it just depends. So you got to be very aware of this. Like, you want to be able to understand natural from unnatural. And then when it becomes to the levels of tricking your mind in so many other ways with this energy, it's like, what doesn't apply to you, like what you don't know versus what you know, like you'll basically have this, like, it's like a smack of energy colliding, of intel versus your knowing. And so, for example, it's like, if you know you like, let's just say, if you know you like certain music, or you know you like driving in the fast lane, or whatever it is, and you know that, and you know you can be responsible, and you know you can drive responsible, and have your music loud or whatever, and you're still coherent or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like you get some of this energy that's of somebody else, and it's telling you different, but you know, like, wait a minute, like, I've been driving for so many years, and somebody's younger or older than you, or somebody drives slower than you, or drives different than you. It's like those energies are going to collide, and one of them's going to get like a freaking like a little spark in their head, or a little slap in their head, to where it's like a reality check. Basically, it's like, whoa, that didn't naturally respond to my knowing, right? And so, with that being said, this is very crucial to anybody that's having vital sign issues, or blood pressure issues, or headaches, or whatever it is, because they're literally going to be messing with your neurons in your brain, and they're going to be judging you differently, or they're going to be trying to give you back differently from what they don't realize that they were taking in the first place. So this is where somebody can hold a grudge against you, and they don't know any better, because they didn't decide to judge themselves. Why were you taking my energy in the first place? Why were you interested in me in the first place? What was it? Like, what was your jealous tendency? What was your vindictiveness? What was your motive? What was your mission? What was your enforcement for trying to stay connected to a person so long, to where you wanted something from them, and you ended up giving back, this, and giving and receiving, and so forth. And they don't understand these things. And then, like, a man's always going to have a woman in their life, and a woman's always going to have a man in their life. So when somebody does use you, like, they're not going to be understanding of the people that are in and out of your lives, whether you're married, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're in your long-term, short-term relationship, whether you are with coworkers, or whether you're with family, whatever it is. It's like they're not going to be acknowledging these things. All of a sudden, you're going to have one person that's basically going to know your whole damn family, and they don't even know themselves or their own family. So it's like, whoa. Like, that's fully 100% tricking yourself. And so at this level and understanding, it's like, wake up, reality check. Know when to bail out. Know when not to use somebody. Know when to let people just be people and let them live. Because it's very effective to a person's life. So these are moments that you got to have awareness and be alert. Because it's very hard to get rid of. Very hard. Very difficult to get rid of. And then depending on the tendencies or the intention, it's like some others can try to hide this from a person or cover it up. And by the time you know it, like, you're walking around like attracted to some dirt on the road because you don't know the other person's intention, or you don't know the understanding, you don't know the duality, you don't know the meaning, you don't know the cause and effect, you don't know the law of attraction, you don't know none of this. So when this happens, you got to seek some help. You gotta literally pick up that phone, or you gotta literally conversate with somebody, have communication with somebody, be able to talk about it. You don't want to keep this hidden from anybody, because it'll turn into like a mental type of breakdown. So you want to be able to communicate about it. You want to be able to conversate about it. You want to be able to verbally talk to somebody about it and seek help. And that's the only way to take care of these things, is to be able to seek help the proper way, because you're going to want to witness. You're going to want somebody to understand you. You're going to want that theory proven. You're going to want to be able to be acknowledged, and you're also going to want to be able to have somebody acknowledge you, to where y'all can have a prevention type thing, and you want to be able to trust this person. You want to be able to know that this person isn't using you, isn't abusing you mentally, isn't doing any of these things. This is very crucial, because this is where it's like, do you really trust a person to do this? Because it's like mind control. It's manipulation. Like this is where it's like a person's demeanor, a person's behavior is basically going to be put into an understanding of if they're worthy of trust, if they're worthy of being able to responsibly understand this intel and actually help you properly. Because if you get help from the wrong person, then you got to have that leeriness of basically, are they going to be using you for the wrong reasons, the wrong intentions? So naturality, know it, learn it. If you don't, educate yourself on it. Know when you're unnatural versus natural. Know your cause and effects. Know your law of attractions. Know what you want in life. Know what you don't want in your life. Know what you're changing. Know what you need to change. Know what you're having a problem with. Just know. And if you don't, then talk to somebody. Or communicate with somebody. Communicate with your spouse. Just find communication. That's all it is, communication skills. Don't be a victim to life.